So yeah, so thank you, Cheryl, for asking me to participate. The one thing that you didn't mention, although you mentioned plenty, but I'm so proud to have the Lillian Vernon Award. How many of you remember Lillian Vernon? That's yeah, you got to be a little bit older to remember Lillian Vernon. But I actually met her when I was the president of the Westchester Association of Women Business Owners, and we created an award in her name. And then I actually got that award a couple of years ago, and I was just so touched by that because I had met her, and it was very inspiring, and it's for community involvement and giving back. So that's kind of cool. All right, so this is my second class today. And I told Cheryl, I said, I haven't been teaching very much because I've just been trying to sort of claim back my time. And I did a tremendous amount of teaching during the pandemic. But I kind of couldn't resist doing this, number one, because it was Cheryl, but also because of my attachment, if you will, or my relationship to artists. So there were two things I wanted to be growing up, and one was a teacher, which I now get to do. And they said, oh, there's no teaching jobs, like don't go into teaching, there's no teaching jobs. And the second thing I wanted to be was an actress. So I was going to be, the next Liza Minnelli or, Barbara Streisand, although I can't sing at all, but I was a decent actress. So as Mitchell and I were talking about, I had wanted to go to SUNY Purchase for acting. And I auditioned the first year and I didn't get in, and I was like, what is wrong with them? And so I auditioned a second year and again didn't get in, but I covered my butt by applying to the letters and science portion of the school. And I ended up going, Stanley Tucci was dating my roommate, and so I saw Stanley all the time, Edie Falco, Gina Belafonte, Wesley Snipes, like all of these people were in my sphere, going to school there before they were anybody. So it was a really fun place to be. Many of my friends were artists. So I had a friend who I'm still friends with, who's so wonderful. He is an incredible artist and started an agency, a graphic design agency with his boyfriend, who I ended up setting him up with. So the two of them have been together since we went to Purchase, which is so amazing. And they had a very big agency and worked for Disney and all kinds of things. And then a friend of mine who was an art teacher for many, many years, and she used to do wood carvings of me and of my roommate. And my other friend, Erica, was an incredible pianist. And so I would study, I was a political science major. So I would study in all of these artistic places all around campus. So I was surrounded by wonderful art and the Henry Moore, which we were just talking about, and wonderful works of art all around campus. So and then many years later, I met my husband, who is an actor. So for anybody who watches Orange is the New Black, he was Piper's dad on Orange is the New Black and did all the seasons, and he's done over 400 commercials. And so I've been surrounded by that, and I'm a little bit like Lucy, is there a part for me, honey? Can I come in with you? And that kind of thing. So I love artists. I love creativity. I love, how can I infuse that in everything I do with my business too. But when I was telling my husband tonight that I was teaching this, he said, oh God, good luck to you. He's like, artists don't like to market. He said, what are you going to teach them? And I said, I know it's hard because it's not like a regular business. It's not a retail shop or a restaurant or a, service business or whatever. So it's a challenge to figure out marketing a business. Oh, hi, Amy. Just saw you there. So what I wanted to do for this, I didn't prepare, a PowerPoint to walk you through the, steps of marketing. What I really wanted to do was make this a conversation and talk about questions that you have so that this is really relevant to what matters to you, because I can talk all day long about marketing. And if at the end of the day, go, I didn't learn anything that related to me, then it was kind of pointless for me to be here and for you to be here. So I'm really all about trying to make this relevant and important and significant so that you really get, even if you get one nugget out of it, to me, that's a home run. So how many of you filled out the questionnaire? And so good to see you, Mary Jean, too. All right, you guys did the questionnaire? All right, if you didn't do the questionnaire, you have to leave. I'm kidding. If you didn't do the questionnaire, you should do the questionnaire because it's not for me.
Not if I printed it and looked at it.
You printed it and looked at it. That's good. No, that's good. That's good. As long as it's kind of flowing in there somehow. I was saying to Cheryl before you guys came on that I use something similar to this, pretty close. I tailored this a little bit for you guys, but I use this for all new clients. I have a Google form and they can access it on my homepage. And basically it starts the conversation rolling. And what happens invariably is someone will say to me, oh, I never thought about that. I never asked myself that question. I don't know what, how to do this or that or whatever. And so it's such a good exercise because there's nothing that's one size fits all. There's nothing that I can tell you that's going to be for every one of you, that's going to be the perfect thing. So what I really wanted to do was sort of go through these questions and hear what you have to say about them, and then help you where you might be struggling with any of these. So that's what I'd like to do. Would anybody like to comment before we go into that?
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
I thought it was interesting. I have done things like that, so it was good to do it again. Something that was on here that I'd never seen before was, what boards are you on? And I was curious. I'm on the Arts Council board, but why did you include that?
It's always important for me to see what connection somebody has in the community, because very often people don't realize the significance of board participation, right? So some people look at it as, well, if I sit on a board, it's going to take up a lot of my time, and I don't want to go to meetings, and it's almost like a drudgery, like it's a commitment that they don't want to make, instead of looking at it as an opportunity, right? Because anytime you're sitting on a board, you are with people who are going to get an experience of you in a way that they wouldn't normally. So people don't understand that that's really a really good marketing tool. Because if I'm sitting with you in a board scenario, and it's actually a reason a couple of years ago that I joined specific boards, because I said, I want to work with that company. And this man sits on that board. I'm going to go on that board because he is now going to sit at every meeting for the next year and hear my ideas and hear my creativity. And he's going to eventually say, hey, we should go to lunch. Okay. So, and even if that doesn't happen, you're planting those seeds, right? So boards are a fabulous way of getting yourself in front of people who might use your services. And you're doing it in a way that is just not salesy. It's just who you are. You're expressing who you are at every meeting. You're participating, you're volunteering, you're showing your creativity, your ideas. And so people just don't realize how important that is. And then also how else can you use that board? Are you going to meetings? Do you have an opportunity to somehow sponsor something going on? So I just think that community involvement and board involvement is an underutilized marketing tool.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
This is the first time I've been on a board, but I've really enjoyed it, and wonderful to hear you say it that way though too.
Oh, good. Yeah, and you also learn about your own leadership qualities, right? Yeah. And you learn leadership, qualities that you didn't have when you started out, so it's such I love being on boards. I think it's such a great tool. I'm usually saturated with them. Yeah. So this has been my year to sort of pull back a little bit, but it's just a great marketing tool as well as a growth tool for people.
Cool.
Does anybody else have any questions before we sort of go through this and have a conversation? No other burning questions? All right. So what I'd like to do is hear from each of you. I want you to describe what you do. I want you to describe your art. and what you do, or your creativity, whatever it is that you do, and what sort of why you're here. Like, why are you here tonight? What is the thing that you're struggling with? And if we start with that, then we can kind of go through some of these other things. But I kind of want to know, why are you here? You didn't have to be here. You could be watching Jeopardy or having a glass of wine. So, Jerry, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Well, I'm an abstract artist. I paint with acrylic paints. And by the way, my daughter went to purchase.
I love it.
So I kind of a newbie as far as marketing goes, so I could use help with all of this. I have no idea what my audience is or who it might be. All I could say is probably adults. I don't know who my target markets are. And I can't even plan out my goals for 12 months. Most of these questions that you asked were interesting to me, but I couldn't answer them.
Okay.
Because I'm that new at doing all of this.
So I love your honesty on that. And I think that's such an important thing to notice, is what questions can't you answer on here, and why? And then how do you get to those answers? So I appreciate your willingness to say that. And I think,
yeah, I've been painting for years, but I just retired a couple of years ago. And of course we had the pandemic, which kind of slowed things up in a way, but I'm now trying to phase into to be an artist after my career. And so I'm new at all this marketing stuff.
okay, great. All right, thank you for sharing that. All right, how about Joyce?
Had to unmute. Hi, Risa.
Hi.
Well, I'm a pastel artist, and I primarily paint landscapes and seascapes. I also teach an art class. So since the pandemic, it's been harder to get to fill some of my classes. People are a little nervous about coming back in person. We were doing it Zoom during 2020 and some of 2021. So yeah, I kind of signed up last minute because I didn't know if I'd be available tonight, but available. So I wanted to hop on. Yeah, I could use help marketing to try to increase participation in my classes. And yeah, also marketing my art would be great. I like Jerry, I don't know all the answers to these questions either. So any guidance would be appreciated.
Okay, great. All right, who wants to go next? Mitchell, go ahead.
My history is a little different. I went and got a master's at Pratt many moons ago, and somehow I got inspired to want to work in the film business, and ended up, the long and short of it is I ended up as a location manager for a lot of different reasons, and location scout. Since I had a master's in photography, it sort of like was a good dovetail, and I shot probably about 2 million pictures. But you know, the joke in art school is if you had one good picture on a roll, which is 2% of 36, then that's a good success. So I always joke that I have 1.98 million really bad pictures or mediocre pictures. And you know, but seriously, I've been like, I've been doing location managing and scouting for about over 20 years for, like, you know, high end, you know, I've closed Times Square, done all those, everything, you know, but I finally got to a point where I got tired of talking about parking trucks, and I really wanted to move into my own artwork, which had been my plan all along. Like whenever I was shooting, I go, oh, this will be when I actually print stuff. I found that one dilemma has been that I discovered that to a certain degree, I was shooting at a subpar for professional photography, even for my artwork, and I've been upgrading my work, my camera and equipment lately. But my goal is to sell my work as an artist. I'm not really interested in being a commercial photographer. I've worked for every commercial, a lot of the very top commercial for, I've seen that business, and I could just, but I've gotten a lot of training from my scouting and talking to people, cold calling. I have a lot of marketing training from doing locations. So I've been doing some work with a couple of coaches. I've done a couple of different things, and I'm really just trying to learn how to market my work. I think because I shoot a wide variety of things, it's like really trying to narrow my description of what I do. My work is very much about the moment and experiencing in a moment the beauty and of a place and a time. And I do play with color and take them out of being a straight photograph into something a little more otherworldly, and not in a weird, creepy way, or like that kind of otherworldly, just like making them heading towards a painterly look. But I feel like I'm still working, it's like I like the photographic process, and I'm not leaving that, even though the work tends to goes past that. So just trying to define that. One of the things I did in coaching, I started doing Zoom calls and showing my work to people. So I've gotten, learning how to speak about my work, and also, I have people who are interested in my work, and I have a lot of people who really love it. And then I have, some of my friends who are very straight photographers who think I'm crazy. So it's like the range.
Right. And thank you for sharing all of that. That's all great. All great to know. My brother used to do photography when I was a little kid, and I remember fondly the smell of the darkroom. So for some reason, that smell is so potent. All good comments and insights about marketing as an artist. So thank you for that.
One of the comical things is I did get I have an Epson printer 2 feet from me. And the first time I started using it, I kind of tortured Lisa's husband, who's a photographer also, because I was terrified of this machine after printing with actual chemicals as well. And then when I actually printed, that turned out to be a happy ending. But the thing was, I did have this thought about opening a bottle of fixative in the room, just so it felt like I was actually,
get the atmosphere going.
Actually, I really like not having to be in chemistry at this point, but that's another. But yeah, I understand that feeling of the smell of fixative and all that.
Yeah, they ought to make that a perfume. It probably would sell well in a certain genre. All right, who else wants to talk about what they do and their art? Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. I quickly filled out the form, but you just now want to know what my focus is.
Yeah, why are you here? What is it, what's the challenge?
Yeah. So I design and create handcrafted beaded and stone jewelry. And let
me just interject and say that Amy made me a beautiful COVID necklace and hand delivered it during the pandemic, because as you can see on Zoom, I should have worn yours tonight, Amy. Everything was like from here up. And I said, Amy, I need a Zoom necklace. And so she made me this beautiful necklace with the stone color I wanted. And then she hand delivered it during the pandemic. So thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Risa. So yeah, my challenge is to reach out and find more of what I've figured out as my ideal client.
Okay. I love that you have figured that out. That is like having the key to the lock there. And we'll talk about that. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who else? Lisa.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a photographer and my subject is women. I take portraits of women and use archetypal and ancestral stories to help reframe our women's lives now and help to empower other women. And I really do most of my work to help lift other women. Since your last workshop, I did create a product, an Oracle deck, which was designed by a purchase grad and has a couple of purchase grads in it as well.
Love
to
it.
continue the purchase theme.
Yeah, I love it.
And so I have been using a lot of social media for this because it's selling. So I'm interested in selling it, which is easier because it's not just, it's sort of a little bit not like quite like it's my photograph, but it's a product, you know, and it's easier. And I know who the people are who it serves. I mean, it's really specific. But I find that, and I've done better since last year. I mean, with social media, I'm more regular and I do more postings, but I don't find sales come that way. And I think I need more, like when I was filling this out, I was thinking, what is it that I'm missing? And it was publicity, you know, like articles. A friend of mine who is a photographer just had a book made, and it's taking off like wildflowers because the publisher is getting it into all these reviewers' hands. I'm getting a lot of reviews on YouTube, and that does make sales. I do know that YouTube videos in a genre where they do unpacking, and there's sort of an unpacking video thing,
Right.
and that I get a lot of sales from that, and that's good. But you can't oversaturate it. You can't do it everywhere. And I've had a lot of them already. So how else? I don't get it from Facebook. I don't get it from Instagram. Not sure where else to go. I do get it from email when I do email blasts, but I kind of like run out of things to say on my emails unless I have a show. I don't really send out emails because I'm like, I don't want to bother people. If I have a show, yes, I want to tell them. And I have the Oracle deck you can buy for sure, but I don't want to do it all the time.
Right. Right.
So that's why I'm here.
Okay, great. All right. Who else? Mary Jean?
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
I am the director over at the Rockland Conservatory of Music. So we're a not-for-profit community music school. And the majority of our students are children and teens with a lot of adults and some older learners, lifelong learners. When we were in Spring Valley at our location, we literally were above the Little Gym and Kumon and the Educational Warehouse. And while it was a terrible location for us in many, many, many ways, that feeder was incredible because people would be at all those programs with their kids and they were like, what are you? And then they'd come wandering up and they'd find out about our programs. And we had a huge amount of young students, like, between the ages of 3 and 6 that were coming in. They were doing Suzuki guitar, Suzuki violin, and then they were going and staying with us. And some of those students we still have and who are graduating now as graduating seniors. When we moved 10 years ago to Pearl River, we continued to keep our student base, but we didn't have that feeder system of those little ones. So we're in Pearl River. We did Pearl River Day for like 8 years, and it's like stroller city. Everybody has children, and we were handing out all these things, asking them when they would like to have toddler programs, parent-child programs. They gave us lots of feedback. We put it out there, and no one signed up. So we don't know what to do because we've had incredible teachers who are ready to do a parent-child class, and we just can't seem to get that target market. So I think that, when I was kind of mentally answering all these questions, I want to find out how to better grab the attention of that demographic for the future of our school.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. Did I miss anybody? Dorothy? Cheryl? All right.
I just want to say that I'm not an artist, but I am a volunteer for ACOR, and I've been focusing on helping them put together the professional development workshop series. So that's part of what I'm doing, and I like to come to them because I learn a lot, but I'm not really marketing anything right now.
All right. Fair enough. All right. So this is all great. And one of the things that I will say to you is I have no magic bullet. As much as I would love to give you guys a magic bullet and say, here's what you need to do, you need to do, you need to do, to be the Wizard of Oz and give you each exactly what you need to run off and be successful. It kind of doesn't work that way, unfortunately. One of the best things to know about marketing is something you already know. So that's like there's no place like home, is that it's hard and you need to be consistent. So one of the things that often happens is people give up too soon. And I actually saw something great the other day about, I think it was Simon Sinek. If you don't know who Simon Sinek is, look him up on LinkedIn, look him up on YouTube and watch every single video you can watch of him. He will inspire you, 6 ways to Sunday. And he talks about, your why and why you do what you do. And how do you convey your why to other people?
How do you spell his name?
Simon and then Sinek, Sinek, I believe.
Thank you.
He talks about everything you do. He's very he's got these really great ideas that you can take and apply to different things. But one of the things he talks about is, if you want to get into shape and you go to the gym the first day and you come home and you look in the mirror after a good workout, you're not going to see very much change, right? You're not going to see any change. And then you go the next day and you do the same thing. You come home and you okay, I don't see my muscles, right? And now you go day after day. And at the end of 10 days, you still may not really see anything, right? And so a lot of people give up and they say, it's not working, or it's not for me, or it's hard. And the fact is that they give up too soon, because we all know if you keep going, even if you don't do it 110% every single time, if you keep going and you are consistent, you will have success. And I honestly, truly believe that. Now, that still doesn't mean that it's easy. It still doesn't mean that it happens for everybody in the same way, right? So there's so many different factors. And that's why, marketing for artists is really harder, because 10 of you could be on this call and 10 of you could be photographers and 10 of you could have 10 different, completely different styles and looks and audiences and, what appeals to who. And so, what works for one photographer doesn't necessarily work for the other photographer in the room or the other 9 photographers in the room. So, so I'm saying this to not sort of cop out in saying, the marketing is I can't help you guys. But what I'm saying is that it's about consistency, being consistent with what you do. It's about fine tuning as much as you can your audience and how you're targeting. And it's, again, it's the consistency is like the biggest word. And I'll have people say, well, how long should I market this for? Or how long should I commit to marketing? And I say, regardless of whether you hire me, how long do you want to be in business for? That's how long you have to market for. It's a constant stream is what you're trying to create. And I tell people to think of it like an octopus, right? You want to have things coming into you from a lot of different ways. So while you're fine tuning your market, and the reason I say you need to fine tune it is that and people will say to me, well, my product or my art or my service or whatever appeals to everybody. Everybody can use me, right? That's never the case. Right. So if you are a car dealer and you are selling BMWs, yes, everybody needs a car. Not everybody needs or wants a BMW. Right. So it's the same concept. And what BMW does, what all the big brands do, is they craft their message and they invest their money, for the most part, towards the audiences that they will have the most success with. It doesn't mean that they're ignoring the others. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't take a sale from somebody who doesn't fit their profile of the perfect, BMW person. But what they're doing is they're investing their time and their energy where they think they'll have the most success. And that's where you need to get to, so that, yes, you could say, well, I write children's books, so every single parent can buy my children's books. Probably not. Right. So you see what I'm getting at, right? That you really need to look at Who really does care about your art? Now, where's the best place to find that? Where's the best place for you to find your target market? Anybody want to venture a guess? Lisa, go ahead.
I would say I have had the most success pre-COVID when we met in person at workshops, conventions, goddess spiritual retreats, that's for me, speaking for where I'm coming from, when it's in person and it's people all together for that one purpose.
Okay, so yes, but I was going for something a little bit different. No, but that's okay. It's a good answer anyway.
Okay.
But I'm going for something. Go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead.
Well, I brought one of my paintings to show, a small painting, just to give you an idea of my artwork, because I have no idea where the audience, not that all my paintings basically look different, but this is one of them. And they are abstract, and I don't know who that market is.
Okay, so, and if you're new at something, then it's a little bit different message that I'm giving you. But for those who have been doing this a while, okay, where you find your perfect customer is in your past customer. And what I mean by that is, what does your best customer look like based on who's already buying from you, who's already purchased your art, who's already been your best consumer, right? And make that a profile. Who is that person? Maybe it's 2, 3, 4 different kinds of people, but those are your best customers. You want to replicate your best customers, your best clients, whatever you want to call them, right? Your best, whatever, audience. So whether it's Mary Jean looking for, well, my best customer seems to be, and sometimes you have to go back and you have to analyze and say, well, where do they fall? Are they usually parents with one child? Are they single moms with 2 kids? Or are they, how old are these kids? Like, how do you define, based on what you already know, your best target audience, and then replicate that, right? So who's already purchased from you? Now, if you want to dig deeper into that, and you say, I don't know why these people buy from me. I don't know what they see in my photography or in my jewelry or whatever, right? Ask them. So put together a Google form the same way I have a Google form, and say, post-pandemic, I am looking to do some new things with my art or with my craft or with my whatever. And I would love your feedback. So would you take a moment to answer? Now, don't give them 40 questions. Be nice. So give them, 5 questions, 10 questions, whatever. And you can make it so that they don't have to identify who they are. You can leave the last box so that they fill in who they are, whatever. But ask them, what drew you to my photography? What drew you to my necklace? What drew you to my my school, my art, my whatever, right? Ask them how to describe it. Right? How do you describe my art? Right? How do you describe my photography? They may come up with words that you're like, oh my God, I never thought about that. Right? And so now you're using your best customer to basically help you craft your marketing message. Right? And I mean, what's more perfect than that? These are the people who buy from you and who care enough. And even if you only get a handful of these back, it's going to give you food for thought. It's going to give you new insight into what you do and how you sell and how you think of your art, because we all think of our craft differently. We all think of ourselves differently, right? One of the things that is also helpful is to think about if you came to yourself or someone came to you, right, and asked you these questions, you would be a lot more helpful with that person than you are with yourself. Right. So sometimes it's helpful to think about your business as if it was somebody else's. And how would you help them? What questions would you ask them? What would you tell them? So if you turn that around a little bit and you make it like not your own, but how would you help somebody else who was in a similar business? Sometimes that helps to sort of unlock some of the ways that we get stuck in helping ourselves to figure out our marketing message or what we're trying to do. So, and some of these words, I was taking notes while you guys were talking. So the email blasts are, I think, Lisa, you mentioned about email blasts. So email blasts are a great tool. So always, if you have a big database or you have a database at all, that's a great way to market your work, or market things that are interesting about what you do, whether you're asking them questions, whether you're, here's 3 tips for encouraging your child to be a photographer, right? Here's 3 tips to encourage your reticent child to play music or to love music, and being informative. I think a big mistake that people make with emails is that they always want to sell. Okay, we need to push this out. We have a class coming up. We have this coming up. We have to sell. We have to sell. We need people to, to click and to buy or whatever. And I think you miss an opportunity to educate. And people don't want to be sold. We don't want to be sold, right? What's our worst nightmare in sales, right? You walk into the car dealership and immediately they're on top of you like little bugs, right? Nobody wants to be sold. People want to be appreciated. People want to be educated. And so think of your marketing messages more along those lines, because when you do that, people are drawn into you. They're drawn into your message, and they know you're selling at the end of the day, right? We're all selling something, but people don't want to be sold to. And so thinking more in terms of educating. I wanted to give you a few ideas. And I know we really didn't get through the questions in here, but I do want you guys to go through those when you have your own leisure time and answer them, because they will be helpful. But I wanted to give you some marketing ideas that you may or may not have thought of, in terms of how to get the word out in a different way, right? Because again, doing marketing for artists is so different than doing it for, Carindaria or for GMG or whatever. So have any of you donated your art to a nonprofit for an auction, or for them to use in a silent auction? Okay. So, I mean, to me, that's such a great way to put your work and your philanthropic, giving back persona in front of a whole bunch of people. So Rockland is filled with nonprofits, as you all know, and there are plenty of opportunities to donate artwork and to let people see your art and say, oh, who did that? That's pretty cool. Who made that? If I don't win it, I still want to, look up who that is. So that's a great way to do it. Cheryl, I don't know if you guys do this with the Arts Council. I was looking on the website and Facebook and I didn't necessarily see anything, but doing like pop-up art shows, where there's empty stores, and inviting artists to participate in that, whether it's all photography or whether it's mixed or whether it's, jewelry or just, a variety, but doing a pop-up art show. And one of the things that I love about that is it's a collab, right? It's a collaboration. And anytime you can collaborate with another artist to do something, or another organization, you've now doubled your everything, right? You've doubled your budget, you've doubled your reach, right? Because you're both going to be pushing that information out there to your own audiences. So any kind of collaboration is fabulous. Can you put your art in a popular location, right? So how many of you have been to Roost to eat dinner? Yeah, Roost is, oh my God, we love that restaurant. And their walls are filled with artists, right? So they usually feature 2 artists. I don't know if it's per month or whatever, but there are so many other places that don't do that. Why not offer it to them? Why not say, I'd love to put some of my pieces in your, in your location. It was occurring to me, so we just finished doing the Rockland Community Foundation journal. And I was thinking that wouldn't it be cool if someone's ad in this journal was just their art, right? And then their name at the bottom of it. So don't be afraid to use some traditional ways of reaching audiences, but using your art to speak for itself, right? And saying, just let the acrylic, a photograph of that, or the photography, and just putting your name at the bottom of it, right? Your art can absolutely speak for itself. Social media. So social media is one of those like sort of double-edged swords, and it's the devil we all have to deal with now, but it is a wonderful tool. If you are not on social media, if you don't have an Instagram or a Facebook, I do highly recommend it. Inviting all your friends to like it, to share it, to post, just, it's such a great way. And once you have it set up, and this is a conversation for another time, but once you have that set up, you can market to people very specifically who like your kinds of art. A great example is I work with an antique bookseller. He does these online antique shows, which weren't online; they were all in person until the pandemic. And then he said, I think I have to go online. And he found a team to create a platform for him. And he made this online platform for people to sell their books and their rare manuscripts and all this kind of thing. And it took off so incredibly well. And every time I do his marketing for him, and they're not big budgets. I mean, we spend $300, $500, small budgets but what we do is really fine tune people who like antique books, people who like vintage, whatever. And he has collected, it's over 15,000 names at this point of people who opted in because they loved what he was doing. They loved that he was having these online and they wanted to get information on them. So the other piece of that is, don't think about being just geographically landlocked, if you will, to this area. If you choose on Facebook for people who like acrylic art, right, or music, I know Mary Jean, you may still do the Zoom sessions and things, and you can market to anywhere now, right? None of us are landlocked anymore. We can market anywhere. And Facebook has done this amazing job of building this database because we've all told them, I like, French cooking, or I like, certain kind of books or music or whatever. And so they have this giant database that you can access for not a lot of money to target the people that you want to reach and do it with your art. So those are great. Street fairs. I know, Mary Jean, you mentioned the street fairs, and I do think that street fairs are a great opportunity. I think that they can be too overwhelming. I love the Nyack one. My office is in Nyack, but for certain businesses, I'm like, you're going to get lost. You're just not gonna, and some people are there. A lot of people are there just to, like you said, Mary Jean, the strollers, and they go through and they're basically looking for a day to just kind of, get out and walk. But it is a chance to showcase your art, and it's not very expensive. So those can be good. The other thing that I really like a lot, and I learned this from my friend, I probably have her, now I think about it, I know we're coming to the end here. I probably have her artwork here in my big drawer. So my friend, Bonnie Edwards, is a photographer, and she was just like a regular event photographer. And then she went into doing beautiful, like still lives, like doing fruits and all kinds of stuff. And I won't find it now. I'll send it to you, Cheryl. You can pass it around. But she did something to them that Mitch will probably know way more than me, but she did something with like a silver overlay thing to it. And they were really cool looking, very different. And I have two of them up in my dining room. But what she did was she took them and she made greeting cards out of them. So she was selling her art without selling her art, right? But for anybody who really liked it, they might say, wow, do you have the original of this, or do you have a print or whatever? So she made wonderful greeting cards from it. And then there's a lot of local, I was thinking of Maria Louisa in Nyack, who likes to sell local things. And so it might be an opportunity to go to someone like that, a local business, and ask them if they would sell your greeting cards. You can get them done almost anywhere now, as far as getting printing done and that kind of thing. Your business card should be your art. You can do postcards that you could leave in certain places with your art. But I love the idea of her greeting cards and thank you cards, and I used them for years, and I definitely have more in here. I'm just not finding them. So I'm kind of getting to the end here time wise. Who else wants to ask more questions that I may not have covered? I'm sure I didn't cover a lot that you wanted to hear, but go ahead, Lisa.
Well, you mentioned using Facebook to target ads.
Mhm.
And I rarely do that. And I'm wondering like what what things would you, I mean, besides saying I'm selling, would you use just like a post that you would like people to see? I mean, like you're talking about educating. Would you use like an educational post that you would want people to see, which would get, it's not the hard sell, but you get their attention or they get in more people's hands? What
Well,
things
so
would you add?
so
Do add?
yours specifically, you talked about like lifting up other women, right? And
Yeah.
doing ancestral stories,
Yeah.
right? Which is so fabulous. So I could see you doing a post that has, something along the lines of celebrate the powerful woman in your life, right? And then you have that post with one of these, and you can do a carousel, you can do a 30-second video or a carousel of 5 photos, and you're showing what it is. So you want to tell people, why do they care? Lisa, you said like you send out these emails and, everybody's busy, right? We're all
Yeah.
like just trying to get by, right? At the end of the day. So you got to strike something in me that makes me say, oh my God, my mother's birthday is coming up. This is a fabulous gift. Or Mother's Day is coming up. What a great gift. Or, I was thinking, sort of talking out of turn here, but Lisa, I was thinking like your ancestral stories or photos of women, like what a great gift that would be for Rockland Business Women's Network to have portraits done of each of the women who are winning the awards this year or next year or whatever. And then that's a showcase for your work, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's more about that. It's not like, oh, look what I do, come see. It's more, you have to tell somebody, why do they care about what you do? Because they don't care about you. They don't, right? Everybody cares about themselves. How are you going to help me solve a problem? My mother's birthday is coming up. I don't know what to get her. She's going to be, whatever age. This is a great thing, right? So you are trying to find how you solve someone else's problem, right? They don't have a Mother's Day gift. They love acrylic art or someone in their life loves abstract art. And here's like for the abstract art lover in your life, give them something original, so you want to think in terms of how can you solve the problem somebody has, right? So Mary Jean, even for you, I'm thinking, does your kid run around the house banging pots and pans? We've got a class for him,
Drumming.
yeah, like what is the problem that the parent has, right, that they want to solve? Is their kid just like so full of energy that they're like, oh my God, you're God, let me have a class that this kid can burn up some of this energy? Or my kid whistles all day long, she's musical, here's a class for you. I mean, Amy, wedding gifts, like, not sure what to give your brides, your bridesmaids this year. Give them a one-of-a-kind necklace to wear, matching the colors of your gown or, the gowns or whatever. So you want to think in terms of how you solve somebody's problem, because they don't care about your art unless you give them a reason to care about your art. And the only way you do that is by solving a problem that they have. So that's, I mean, from a marketing perspective, that is the biggest thing, is how you're going to help somebody solve a problem that they have. And then
Is
if you
that-
can,
oh, sorry.
you can do that. Go ahead,
I
Cheryl.
was gonna ask, is that a specific like formula? Like if you were to, like if I'm creating posts or something, is that how, like, do you use a question? Is that the
Yeah.
thing that draws somebody in?
Yeah, you can do that for sure. I mean, one of the tips in writing headlines, right, or writing subject lines for emails is to ask a question and to put numbers in it. 3 ways to make sure your kid's talents aren't wasted. Oh, okay, I want to read that, right? People love numbers, they love lists, right? And they love like a problem that they can solve. Trying to think of more in terms of numbers, but Lisa, I love yours with the whole ancestral and raising women up. I feel like there's plenty for you in terms of, empowering the woman in your life, empowering the young woman in your life, celebrating the older woman in your life. There's a zillion ways to phrase that so that it's not, hey, look what I do over here.
Right,
Nobody cares what you do over there.
right.
They don't. They're like, how's this help me? That is the bottom line of marketing. How are you going to help somebody feel better, look better, solve a problem? That is what you need to think about in terms of marketing. And yeah, if you can pose it as a question and if you can add numbers, that's like golden.
You just gave me an idea, Risa, for RBWN to talk to Lisa about later.
Good. See, one nugget.
Me
Got one nugget.
too. I
We'll
think
talk.
my newsletter subject this week is going to be, does your look need a lift?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Or 2 ways to lift your look.
Oh, Mary
Nice.
Jean, I've got a
Nice.
job opening over here for you.
Cool, I need a moonlight.
Yeah, and see, when you're helping somebody else, right, you kind of get it. And that's the way to think about yourself is if someone came to you and they had your business, like how would you help them? Or do a brainstorming, you can absolutely have your own board of directors, your own mastermind group where you help each other do just this kind of thing. Right. But again, looking at your existing customers, asking them for feedback on why they buy your art, why they work with you, what they love about what you do, how they would describe what you do, and then using some of that and translating it into helping somebody solve a problem, helping somebody, get something solved or do something different, or, making them smile, making them feel good. That's what gets people's attention. It's not the look what I have for you to buy. Does that help? Like Karen Daria, it's like, look what's for dinner. You don't have to cook. Right here.
Three new dishes.
Yes.
Three new
I mean,
dishes.
I have people all the time when they call me new clients and they'll say, what can you do for me? And I say, I have no idea. I may not be able to do anything for you. I don't know what your problem is. You need to tell me what your problem is, and then we can have a discussion and I'll see if I can help you. Maybe I can't help you, and they're always kind of like, what do you mean? But it's true. Someone has to tell me their problem and then I can say, okay, yes, I can help you with XYZ, or no, I can't help you. So think in terms of what problem can you solve for people?
Well, one of the things I brought up was how a friend of mine, with her book, it happened to hit a chord. Actually, one of the reasons she thinks it's hit a chord is a lot of it's about, it's vintage, so it's old, but it's a lot about touching, how people touch each other. So right now that actually resonates because of COVID and people couldn't touch each other. So she's gotten a lot of write-ups in Washington Post, New York Times, New York Magazine, Le Monde in Paris. I mean, it's gone big. And then I got jealous. So do you think, do you think it's necessary? I mean,
Love your honesty.
What's your problem? And that had been my problem. I don't get enough PR. Do you think that's necessary? I mean,
well, the name of my company is GMG Public Relations. So I love public relations. And yes, there are times when we get an article for somebody and it literally like catapults them. I mean, going back to my bookseller, we happened to pitch, I was reading, trying to get him some good coverage, and it wasn't happening. And then I read a story by an AP writer who had covered like the first, blah, 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 whatever it was. And I reached out to him and I said, I have the first ever printed Christmas card that's going to be for sale. Are you interested? And that was my pitch. And he was like, yes. And that night the AP story appeared and it appeared all over the world. And this show was wildly successful. So I'm a great believer in PR. Again, it's not a panacea. It's not a magic pill. It can be, but it's also something that generally should be looked at as, you're doing all the time. But yes, if you have a product or a service or something that is very unique, or has a great story behind it, absolutely getting that story out can really catapult, and make something like, oh, wow, this is the thing of the moment, that magic moment. But I don't want to, deceive anybody that, getting one article can transform a business. It can, but in general, it's more of an ongoing, the same way I was saying, being consistent with marketing in general, it's generally the same thing with PR. You're building. But again, if something's really unique and really different, yeah, you could get a very big hit that could translate into, into sales, into more publicity, into all kinds of things. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Are we supposed to go to 8:30, Cheryl? or 8? Or
I think we're scheduled for an hour, but
Oh, okay.
you know, if there are any last minute
Wanted
questions,
to make sure.
you know, we can you can answer a few more questions if there are any.
One thing, and I think you touched on this, Risa, is that idea that anything or any business can be everything for everybody. Because what we found out and why we stopped doing the Pearl River Day is because unless someone really was looking for music lessons for their kid, they didn't give a shit.
Right.
You know, they would come to our booth and we would give them free trials, and they would cancel at the last minute because we happened to catch them and said, hey, would you like to do this? And they were like, all right. But it wasn't like they came to us and said, I'd love to take lessons. What can I do? So, you know, unless somebody's looking for a necklace or looking for beautiful jewelry, you know, it doesn't matter. Unless someone's hungry, they're not going to stop at Carinderia. You know, it's like, so we found that, you know, that you really have to market to the people who are actually looking for you.
No,
So,
you're,
like
you
said,
are
to solve the problem.
100% right. 100% right. But I will also give you a scenario, which is, so a bunch of years ago, I would get the printed version of the journal news, and it had a what's called a gatefold over the front of it. And it was an ad for Mavis Tire. And it would come every single Friday, and it would fall off the paper, and it would always annoy me. And I would always, it was the first thing I tossed out. And then I needed tires.
Until you needed tires, right?
And it was the fact that they reminded me every Friday that they were there. And so when I was ready to buy, I thought of Mavis Tires.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so yes, you're right, but it's also in the consistency. But yes, and that's why I say when you do the marketing, you know, finding your target market, who is interested in buying your product or service or art or whatever. But also that's why some of these databases, you know, Facebook, Instagram, which is Facebook owns Instagram, but using those databases because they've identified already, people have self-identified, you know, that I love kids music, or I have kids who like music, or, you know, whatever. I have, you know, kids between this age and this age. So they've done a lot of that work for you. And that's why using that and fine tuning how you boost a post or you do an ad on there so that you're making sure you're very specifically targeting so that you are getting to the people and the eyeballs and the brains who say, oh, you know, yeah, I'm always looking for things for my kids to do, or I'm always looking for musical opportunities for my kids or activities, or, you know, whatever it is. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's the difference between the shotgun of just spew it all out there and hope something comes back versus this is my target audience and I'm going to keep hitting them with this message
Until they need me, right?
Until they actually need it, but they're the right target market.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good point. The other thing I'll remind you of, again, I'm a great believer in a lot of these community events and get people getting to know you. It's not just about your art, you know, it's in a small community like this, it is about, like, you know, getting to know people. So I have a community calendar that I maintain, and people send me their activities all the time, and I post them there. So if you're looking for places to go, or organizations to say, I'd love to donate my art to your next auction or whatever, it's westrocknetworking.com. And it's actually a page on my website, but it's there's a couple of different names for it, but westrocknetworking.com or rocklandcommunitycalendar.com. And you'll see on there a whole bunch of different upcoming events and things. Some of them are strictly like business networking, but you know, it's a place at least to start and look for activities that you might be able to participate in.
Great.
All
All
right.
right. Wow. I have like pages of notes. I don't know if anybody else. Are there any last minute questions, or I guess everyone? Oh, go ahead, Amy.
I just wanted to put in a plug for what Risa said about consistency. I heard from a friend that I met years ago, and I really haven't even been in touch with her, but she was on my list, and I send something out every week. And out of the blue, she placed a significant order, and she called me to tell me how much she loves my work. And so, you know, that consistency, that consistent touch, you never know who you're going to touch with it.
Good point.
Yeah, that's totally true. I've had people contact me who are on my list literally for, I've had my company 30 years. So there are people on my list who, you know, when email started, like they've got their same AOL address or whatever, and they're still getting my emails. And I'll get every once in a while, I'll get a, you know, just want to tell you, I love getting your emails. And I'm like, oh my God, like you're still in my database, you know, that you're still getting the emails. So yeah, so people do read it, and I'll get, you know, I'll get calls from people that they're ready to work with me. And I'm like, I don't even remember meeting you, you know, it was like so long ago. So yeah, it is, again, goes back to what Mary Jean said as well. You know, it's when somebody is ready to buy. If you have kept your message out there and you've been clear and you've been consistent, and you know, your message is a good one, and your integrity and, you know, branding and all of that, that, you know, eventually, you know, when someone's ready to buy, they think of you over the other guy. You know, if the Mavis guy had stopped putting that ad there, you know, I might have gone with Midas or, you know, Tri-State Tire or whatever, you know, so it's definitely in the consistency.
Risa?
Yeah.
Would you, is there a number you could say about how many times to post and you know, a week or a month, and how many times to send out emails?
Really good question. It was one that we talked about in the LinkedIn session this morning. So you should post as often as you have something interesting to say or to share. So, but at least, in my opinion, twice a week, so that you are keeping somewhat consistent out there, and you get rewarded by the algorithms of the social media sites. Because if you, the more consistent you are, the happier they are with you, and the more engagement you get, the happier they are with you. So you also want to ask friends and you know, people that you know, to not only like, but to so there's like, and there's commenting, and there's sharing, and those each impact the algorithms in a different way. Like being the least effective, sharing being the most effective. If someone shared your post, Facebook looks at that and goes, oh, wow, that was really important to that person. So let's show that to a few more people, right? And commenting is also really good. Commenting, you generally want to do 5 words or more, so that the algorithm kind of says, oh, wow, this person really is engaged with this post. And the more traction you can get that way, the more it will show your post to more people. When you have a business page, it now shows to, it's some ridiculous amount. So if you've got 100 people who like your business page on Facebook, it'll show it to about 3 to 5% of those people. It's not like everybody's seeing it. So
Right.
personal pages are different. So personal pages are, you know, and I think for artists, personal pages are okay, actually. So those you can get a little bit better traction on and better engagement on. And they reward you a little bit differently than doing it on a business page. But you want to keep yourself out there. But again, not in a salesy way, not in an aggressive way, not in a look what I got, look what I got, look what I got, you know, because people go, okay.
And what about the emails?
So another really good one. So I have a client where Down to Earth Living in Pomona, and we do, when we get into the season, right? So we're starting now with spring. We will do one like almost every week, but sometimes we'll skip a week, right? And it's mostly informative and educational. Spring planting, you know, sowing your plants inside, keeping your, and people read it. And he actually gets feedback where people go, oh, this was great, thank you. Like he'll actually get like emails back to him about it. Then as we get more into the season, then we start to do a little bit more promotional, a little bit more, you know, make sure you're picking up your mulch and, you know, 5 for 1, 5 for, you know, 5, pay for 5, get 6 mulch bags, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll do them a little bit more promotional and salesy. But you want people to look forward to your emails. You want them obviously to open it and have a good open rate. And the way that you do that is making them interesting, making them engaging, making them educational and informative. You know, boost a different artist. You know, if you regularly send them, say, we're highlighting a different artist, you know, today. And people be like, oh, really? Like, who are you highlighting? Like, why are you doing that? You know, so it'll get them to be intrigued, you know? So you want to do things that are surprising, do things that are interesting and different, because that's how you get and keep people's attention. If you're just selling yourself every time, here's a new this, here's a new that, they're like, okay, yeah, I know, you know, like it becomes boring. So you want to be interesting, you want to be interesting to people.
Risa, is there a like a percentage that would be considered like a good open rate? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
there are definite percentages that are good open rates. Now, it depends on who you talk to, because if you talk to certain advertising people that you're paying, and they get a 7% open rate, they'll say, oh, that's good. That beats the national average for your industry, whatever. And they can twist the statistics any way you want. If you have a good list, that's your list. So I'll give you Down to Earth's open rate last week was 46%. That's outstanding. Like that's really, really good. That says that, not most 50%, right? 46% of his people are very engaged and very interested in what he has to say. They generally say if you can get a 15% open rate, and I would argue that 15% is more on a list that's not your proprietary list. I would say that rate is more of a generic list. So in other words, if I was using we work a lot with Hoag, we work a lot with iHeartRadio to do email blasts and Pandora and stuff like that. They'll sometimes do email blasts for us, and they'll get a 10%, a 15%, a 20% open rate. And because it's generic, right? It's not generic in that we are doing the targeting. We are saying we want to target this person, right? If it's this demographic, but it's not a proprietary list. So if you get a 20% with that, that's good. But if you have your own proprietary list, you should be getting a higher open rate than that. But some, if you're using Constant Contact or even MailChimp, sometimes they'll tell you like the industry average for your, industry is X. You're doing really well because you beat X by, whatever, or, you're not quite, up to industry average. So it varies, but in general, if you've got a good, solid, engaged list, you should be getting pretty good numbers. I rarely see above that 50% mark. I've seen it, but it's rare. And part of that's just like people, it can end up in their spam. More and more of that happens now. It can end up that they go, okay, I know she'll send another one next week, so I don't have to read this one, so that can happen. But on a generic list, you may get a 10, a 15, a 20. Okay. Thank you. And it's always good to look at those stats too, always good to look at those stats and figure out, is this working? Are people opening this? Are they reading this? Great.
I actually have a comment to add to that. I'm looking at my stats for who opens my weekly email, and when I send it out the first time, I have a pretty high open rate. And then I resend to non-openers.
Yes.
And except it's a really low open rate. So that the people who are really interested, it seems, usually open it on the first send, because my percentage open rate is less than half on the resend to non-openers.
Yeah, but that's okay, because on that reopening, that's actually very good, because when you combine those numbers, you'll get a big percentage. So I wouldn't worry about that. Doing the reopening is a fantastic tool. So I absolutely recommend doing that. And Constant Contact has that built in. MailChimp might, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I use MailChimp, and
Wow.
2 days later I resend to non-openers.
Yeah, that's a very good practice.
Wow,
Yep.
I
And it
never
just
heard
says
of that.
reminder, whatever. Yep.
I never heard of that. So you send, if the people who didn't open it, you send it out again?
Yeah.
Well, the system will do it automatically. So within Constant Contact, it'll say, like, do you want us to send this out again to non-openers? So you can say yes or no, and you can choose when you want it to send. You can change the subject line, but usually what they do is they put in it like reminder, blah, 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 blah. And so people go, oh yeah, what's this? And it makes them sort of,
I
engage.
use Wix. I have used Wix. I don't think they have that on there.
Yeah, they may not.
I don't think so.
I haven't used them for mailing. I did a website with them, but I haven't used them for mailing.
I did my website and I use them for the email blast too. Because then when they sign up, it goes right away into
Right in
the
there.
email list. It was easy.
Right.
All right, I'll have to look and see about that.
Yeah, it's a good tool. It's a very good tool.
Good to know.
Great. All right, well, that, I mean, that actually, I went on and I got another page of notes. So I think maybe we've come close to the end of our time. And thank you, Risa, for giving us a little bit of extra time, and for everyone else for staying on for the discussion. And if you're not familiar with some, just a little plug for ACOR, but I think it's relevant because I think some of the things that you touched on are things that we have resources for at ACOR that may be helpful. So if you haven't sort of explored what your membership benefits are, there are lots of things that you can do to kind of network a little bit more. And now that things are opening up, I'm hoping we're going to be doing more things in person. But even like something like this, great discussion. So please, I hope you'll take advantage of future workshops and other opportunities that we have for our members at ACOR. So with that, this has been recorded, and I can share it with everyone who registered. And I'm also going to ask that when you get my email, there will be a very short survey, if you wouldn't mind giving us a minute or two of your time to give us some feedback on this session, and of course, share ideas of other things you'd like to see. We would greatly appreciate that. So, and I don't know if Lisa, there's anything that I missed. Lisa's very good about making sure I say all the things I'm supposed to say to promote our organization. But if not, just thank you so much, Risa, and thank you to everybody who came. There were supposed to be more people, but it was kind of nice that we had an intimate group because we had the opportunity to have a nice discussion. So,
Well, thank
it.
you for having me. I appreciate it. And I wish you all, much success. I am not an artist. I can draw hands. So that's about all I can draw.
It's very hard.
Which apparently is very hard, but I can draw
Yeah.
hands, but that's it. And I can occasionally do a good eye. And other than that, I can't do much. So I admire everybody who has an artistic bent, because I really don't. But thank you, Cheryl. And and thank you, everybody. It really was a
Thank
good
you very much.
discussion. So thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Risa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Risa. Good night,
Cheryl.
everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Cheryl.
you. Bye-bye.
The alumni group.
Yes, go Swin Burgess.